Blues for Hawthorn.
Brisbane start well before Collingwood got a real wriggle on and went right away. Good goal by Lehman a moment ago, and McGuan was in terrific form with his 5 goals. That was a great bit of play. Here's Wayne Campbell for Richmond, receiving it from Knights and banging it through. Tigers must have been very competitive early. They didn't kick straight. They were 2-8 to 3-1 at quarter time. But it was that burst by North Melbourne in the third quarter when they kicked 8 goals in about 20 minutes and that set up this very big win for North Melbourne, and not the start that Alan Jeans would want with Richmond, though. He certainly wasn't panicking. John Longmire, who's got a bit of a problem with his back. I'll ask Scotty Palmer about it shortly. Kicked 6 goals. He loves that wide turning arc, but he is a very, very good player. What about Dunstall? Start was terrific yesterday. That was a magnificent goal. Turning like that. He kicked 3 goals within about 15 minutes, and Hawthorn led by 3 goals into the breeze at Princess Park. But this man had a memorable day. Silvani with his 8 goals. He had 3 different opponents. Not too sure why Langford didn't go on him at some stage, but he looked to be the best bet. But he was much too good for Ayres and then too good for Jenke, and then gave Madigan the run around. They tried to give Silvani the run around as well. But it was McDonald, and that was the Dean situation. It looked like it might have been a broken arm, but it looks as if it's a dislocated elbow, which is a much better result because Dean has broken his arm before. It was a fairly solid bit of play with Spalding splitting a couple. What about Silvani there, 1 out? Gave Carlton a tremendous option yesterday because it meant that Kernahan could go on the ball and get himself into the game, which he did very well. And Silvani and Bradley were the 2 big stars yesterday. And Silvani did finish it off. He could have kicked 10 because he missed a couple, but straight through for his 8th. And the Blues were home, and who knows, they've got some players to come back, and suddenly Carlton, who at 3/4 time last week, everyone were riding off and saying, well, Brisbane are going to beat them and the Blues are in for a wicked season. And now, 5 quarters later, we're starting to talk about the fact that they could make the top 6. No reports to report at this stage from round number 2. What about the interstate headlines? Well, the Age in Melbourne is saying this. Hawthorn invincible, question mark? Melbourne gone? Well, think again, because footy's a funny game. What about the Mail in Adelaide? Still talking about Andrew Jarman, who writes a column for the Sunday Mail.
Suggested that they would be down the list. I wasn't one of them, I must say. Well, I was too, I must admit it. But they did show that they are a side that will not be easily beaten. They threw everything at Geelong in that first half, and a few Geelong players really need to have a look at themselves because, well, there's one of them, Billy Brownless, who certainly didn't play the way we're used to seeing Billy Brownless play.
Bernie, do you think that Malcolm Blight could structure that side a little bit? Maybe Ablett the full forward and Brownless somewhere else. And would you have played Tim McGrath on Djakovic after that hiding on Dunstan?
Well, that's what I said last week, Pete. I didn't like the way that the side was structured because I think Ablett is best value playing at full forward. He's averaged almost 3.5 goals per game playing VFL, AFL football. I do like Brownless at centre-half forward or Stoneham. It doesn't matter there, but Stoneham certainly isn't playing as well as he did last year.
So, are you really saying that Tim McGrath shouldn't have been played open up on Djakovic?
I haven't said anything about Tim McGrath yet.
Well, what do you think about that?
Well, I thought that maybe Blight did show some sort of confidence in him after last week's game on Jason Dunstall. But I do believe that Andrew Rogers... Well, I can't see why.
He's played about 10 games.
Ron, I just can't see why.
Against the 2 leading full forwards in the competition. Yeah, last week he was slaughtered by Dunstall.
Yes.
And next week, with his confidence down to blazes, he's confronted with Djakovic, who kicked 70 goals in 14 games last year.
The thing is, Ron,
he's got to be given a start, surely.
In the first 2 matches of the season. He's only been drafted a week ago. They don't even know what his capabilities are.
They've tried 25 fullbacks. They're entitled to give a fella 2 weeks in a row.
Well, look, the thing is, I can't understand why they don't play Andrew Rogers there. I thought he did a good job at fullback last year. Malcolm Blight obviously had different ideas about where Rogers should be playing, but they haven't got a fullback who is better than Andrew Rogers.
Bernie, it's early in the season. Do you think that we might be seeing a repeat of Geelong's form after their last...
Doing very well and played a great game, and I thought that Wright gave him a great lift, you know, and really was... it's an interesting thing. I should get the advice of the panel here. I can't understand how a team like Brisbane can lead for a good part of the first half and then suddenly go to pieces. Is it that the teams take them too easily, or they're a bit soft on them early, or Brisbane are quite a good team and then just fall away?
Well, I think Brisbane just lack what's called match winners. When the game comes to the crunch, they haven't got the class players, the match winners to...
Well, how do they match?
Enthusiasm.
Is that all it is?
They're all revved up. Enthusiasm can take you a long way
when you're an amateur. It doesn't take you that far if you're a professional.
We saw the same thing with Fitzroy and Essendon in that final. Fitzroy stayed with them for that first half with purely
adrenaline.
Purely adrenaline and enthusiasm, but didn't have the players to finish it off.
Bobby, you're impressed with Collingwood?
I think that they're back on their track, yes, and they certainly... Pert's added another dimension for them. He demolished 3 fellas yesterday. He did well. Lehman looks a good player. I think that McGuan's back into the team, and he really almost could have got a vote. He played extremely well for them. I think that certainly they've overcome that terrible habit that whatever it was last year that just let them fall away. But they are very...
Richmond actually went into their forward line on about 6 occasions in that third quarter. And they were repelled by that half-back line of North Melbourne. And North Melbourne had good players everywhere around the game. The last quarter, they became a little bit arrogant, I thought, North Melbourne, in the way they used the ball and how they took it for granted as far as their opponents were concerned. Richmond, I couldn't really see much as far as players went. Waitman was good early, as was Niche. But they were a little bit lost. They made a good move, and I hope they keep it in mind about Bremen going to full forward, because I watched Bremen when he was at Subiaco before he joined the West Coast, and he was a very good full forward for Subiaco. In fact, I think he topped the goal-kicking list in that in the Waffle League. He's an excellent lead. He is a big kick. He can kick them from 50 metres. Maybe he's a little bit small, but he obviously knows his position because he was cut to pieces by Dwyer on that half-back line, so I don't think he's a half-back. North Melbourne, we should talk about a few of their players. Paul Spargo, a real goer, whether in the centre or on the ball forward pocket. Anthony Rock, he's an angry young man who really does like to get under packs. And he had a counterpart yesterday, and there he is there, 46, Christian Anning. His first game, shows a lot of pace, he shows a lot of football ability, and with experience he will just settle down.
Yes, we start off last week in Adelaide. Romano Negri taking a fairly straightforward mark, a big tall player.
The next one, Justin Charles, I don't know whether he actually held that. He didn't take it to ground, but it was paid anyway.
And Stuart Lowe, we see the great strength of Stuart Lowe here, just fending off his opponent and taking a one-hander.
And David Schwartz, this was a good mark. He was out of position and lunged to take that, an excellent mark.
And the next mark, one of Geelong's promising young players, Paul Brown. Did very well in these first 2 matches.
Well, how often do we see this? Gary Ablett, look at that. Eyes on the ball, strong mark, centre of the pack.
And there's Gary Lyon taking a good mark for, well, that's par for the course for Melbourne.
And Steve Silvani, a great performance, 8 goals yesterday. The ex-Marcelin schoolboy, top mark there.
Earl Spalding, strong. Didn't quite control it, but was paid.
And this guy's been a surprise packet. Brett Scholl, a terrific mark out on the wing yesterday.
And have a look at this one by young Alex McDonald. It's taken him a while to get into that Hawthorn side, but that was a terrific effort.
Well, pretty even, Robert.
Just at the last minute, he took a high leap, one hand, and then brought it down. And it was a top effort by the youngster who, as I said, has taken a little while to get into the
First goal comes out of the blue. I don't even think Peter McIntyre was aiming at the goals, but got the desired result. Good goal.
Knocked it away, nearly running onto it was Collinwood.
And Stephen Collinook here will set him off, often do this. Great snap, good skills, left foot up.
And another one from the Crows here, the boy from Fish Creek, Victoria, representing the Crows, Wayne Wiedemann, an excellent, long, driving left foot kick. Not much to cheer about last week, but that certainly was a good goal.
And here's Brendan Bauer, ex-Richmond with his new club, showing great courage there, running with the flight of the ball. Nice.
Now this one isn't a goal, Barosh. You watch it. It's touched on the line and bounces before the line.
And you can see this, can you?
You can.
You can actually see it.
You can definitely see it.
Amazing skills with the
Slow it up. Frankie Coughlin. Well, he goes to Hollywood on this goal. Lovely bounce. Great stuntman work, Frank. Pleased with it too.
Now here's Tim Allen doing a bit of Gary Abbott stuff there. A bit of luck with the kick, but what daring. Good on you, Timmy.
He's an excellent player from the Mornington Peninsula. Nicky Winmar. Well, this is a pretty standard goal for Nicky. He had plenty of time to snap it round, bent the ball and delivered one of the death blows to Essendon.
Well, here's another Nicky Winmar kick. Twice as difficult as the other one, but what a superb effort.
Well, the uncanny goal-kicking machine from Melbourne, Alan Jakovic, he's got copyright on this goal. We've seen dozens of those in his short career. I'm sure we're in for another year of sensational goals from him.
And here's another top kick from Stephen Stretch. We know he's a very good kick, but not much set-up time there. Good effort.
Well, I wonder if there's ever been as good a goal kicked on your debut and your first goal for a new club. Number 10 draft choice, Andrew Lamprell, a sensational goal, and I know Ron Barassi was very pleased with that one.
Yes, he was, and I was pleased with Stephen Silvani's return. There wouldn't be many guys of this fellow's height who were so agile on the ground.
And Troy Lehman, a player who struggled a little bit last year. A good snap at goal at Victoria Park, brought the crowd to its feet, and Troy's a wonderfully talented player.
And here's another guy who's really struggled to show he's any good for about 15 years. Dale Waitman. Lovely examples there. And the person we've chosen...
I think you're using "where" a little bit liberally.
Well, you wanted Tim Allen, but I thought a guy who probably dreams about his debut. We all dreamed about this sort of thing on a Friday night, kicking a fabulous goal, a difficult goal, a crowd-pleasing goal. This guy's done them all with his first kick. How good's that? Young Lamprell, what's this? Nice skills. Maybe he knew where the goals were, but...
Can it be my